I am using Google Maps and Google Earth together with the Dealey Plaza layout map to investigate and studying this film of Abraham Zapruder. In this layout, I have added yellow lines, what I called as Zapruder lines, that intersect the fixed points in the background of the film, which can be used to determine the location of Kennedy's vehicle in the video. The location of the car crossing these Zapruder lines and the distance traveled are marked on Google Maps with blue lines. On the left side there is a frame number on where this blue line is defined, and on the right side I have marked the distance traveled from the 0 point, which is the starting point of frame number 133 where Kennedy's car appears on the film. The Z0 Zapruder line is referred to the corner of the City Hall building that can be seen in the background of the video. This Z0 line hits very close to the middle of Kennedy's car windshield and the left front corner. The frame number after the Zapruder lines indicates the frame with which this Zapruder line was taken and where it is located in the center of the video frame. At frame 150, and Davison's video already has 4 missing frames, which must be taken into account when determining the speed of Kennedy's car. I have used Lightbox's video to determine the missing frames from the and Davison Zapruder film. The reason why I don't use, for example, Lightbox's video in my own research is that the reference lines I use to study the video are better visible in and Davison's video, and that I think this video is of better quality. The Zapruder Z1 reference line is positioned at the corner of the criminal court building and where the corner of the driver's side of Kennedy's car is at frame 150. Between frames 133 and 150, Kennedy's car has traveled 11 feet in 1.15 seconds, giving the car a speed of about 65 miles per hour. The Z2 line is referenced to the Dealey Plaza fountain wall on which Howard Brennan is sitting and can be seen in the photo. Since there is no frame number 171 in and Davison's film, where the corner of Kennedy's car intersects with the Zapruder Z2 line, I have to use frame 170 in the picture where I have put the frame 172 in the smaller picture, from which we can conclude that Kennedy's car crosses the Z2 line in frame 171. In my criminal investigations, the first bullet hit Kennedy at frame 220 or 221 of the Zapruder film, where you can form an bullet hit line that is very close to square holes of Dealey Plaza fountain wall, which is placed in 45-degree angle with these other walls. The reference line of this bullet hit line is somewhere between these two bullet reference lines, but more about this shot later. Fake shots. Dicta belt recording. To determine the false shots and the real shots, I have used eyewitness observations such as Rosemary Willis, who ran alongside the Kennedy limousine on Zapruder film, and also the dicta belt recording, which was recorded one of the motorcycles that drive alongside the Kennedy limousine. This dicta belt recording has been researched and analyzed by James E. Barger from Bolt, Beranek and Newman, and it acted as the main role in the House Select Committee on Assassination Investigations, where the recordings were used to determine whether there was a second shooter involved in the Kennedy assassination and where was this motorcycle that recorded the shootings. This analysis of acoustics turned out to be the biggest bullshit stories I have ever encountered in my criminal investigation career, and what makes even worse is that science and university-level research are used only to manipulate people who has not understanding such a high-skilled acoustics that Barger discusses in this study of his, which are basically a false test results shown to the people when Barger has mixed the test result of shots fired to the sandbags so that no one could use these his test results, which are only used to feed lies to United States citizens about who shot Kennedy and how it happened, and which makes me thinking how false these results of Barger really is, and can you trust anything from it? But this only tells you that United States is using science and their paid researchers to manipulate people and hiding their own crimes and what this killing Kennedy was. This dicta belt recording research, analysis and statements are based on the fact that the recording was recorded from the jammed microphone on H.B. McLean's motorcycle, who drove about 125 feet behind the Kennedy limousine. Based on these test results and what James E. Barger is saying in the House Selected Committee on Assassination hearings, which is of course absolutely bullshit stories and tells you how United States use their own biased and paid experts' opinions only to scroll this Kennedy assassination more on the wrong direction. This recording clearly shows the two shots fired by Jack Dougherty at the Texas School Book Depository, the neck shot and the head shot, and what is clear from this recording is that the amplitude of the shots is getting smaller from the neck shot to the head shot, which indicates that the motorcycle from which this recording was recorded is moving away from the shooter, which clearly refers to these four motorcycles that were driving next to Kennedy's limousine, while H.B. McLean was driving towards the Texas School Book Depository, which would mean that if the recording had been recorded from his microphone, these shots would have been amplified as McLean was driving towards the Texas School Book Depository and closer to where these shots were fired. This fact not only undermines all of James E. Barger's research and statements regarding the acoustic investigation of the Kennedy assassination, but also makes this professor of acoustics a lying scumbag of fucking everything, and who is talking about the Kennedy assassination investigation into more on the false direction than it was after the Warren Commission. But fortunately, the Kennedy assassination investigation is now in better hands than ever, and I have no motive to mislead these investigations or frame innocent people as guilty of the Kennedy assassination like this gangbang who killed Kennedy and who has framed Lee Harvey Oswald as the shooter of Kennedy even though he was shot by Jack Dougherty. Fake shot location crowd. Before this real shots, fired by Jack Dougherty, there were at least two fake shots fired by Lyndon B. Johnson, which was mistaken for firecrackers and where we focused under this topic. The origin of these fake shots has remained a complete mystery all these years, which of course raises the question about of where they came from. If these fake shots, which were thought to be fireworks, had been fired from the crowd, we would have a clear statements from the other citizens and the person who did it and why, which we don't have. Furthermore, such individual uses of fireworks cannot be isolated acts by a large mass of people, But as an isolated case, these fake shot created by firecrackers is more the act of the group that assassinated Kennedy. These sound sources that have acted as fake shots that originate from this group that assassinated Kennedy has been used to draw attention away from the speeding limousine of Kennedy and the Texas School Book Depository in order to there would be no eyewitnesses to this assassination of Kennedy, except those who are complicit in this assassination of Kennedy, like Abraham Zapruder and Howard Brennan, but more about them in the end of this video. If these fireworks had been caused by ordinary citizens, they would have been seen along the route of this motorcade done by other citizens as well, and why these firecrackers as an isolated case is an act done by this gangbang who killed Kennedy. If these fake shots were fired from the crowd, and why nobody talks about them, not even the Dallas policemen who were at this corner of Houston and Elm Street. Is that all these people that were gathered to this Houston and Elm Street corner is people who support this assassination of Kennedy, and why they are not talking? There is lots of evidence of this, but I will focus on them in another video of mine, called The Eyewitnesses. Fake shot location LBJ. This motorcade and Lyndon B. Johnson's set of these firecrackers are supporting the fact that if we exclude this area where the crowd was and where these sound sources might came from and where there are no eyewitness statements about who set off these firecrackers, there are no other option that these fake shots noticed as firecrackers has came from the motorcade and the car of Lyndon B. Johnson, whose idea this assassination of John F. Kennedy was at the first place, which raised LBJ to the presidential position with the help of this assassination, which was a much bigger scam than the ballot box 13 scandal. With the help of this neo-Nazi of United States cleared his way all up to the Senate and from there to the President of United States by killing Kennedy. Fake shot 1. For this first fake shot, there is a statement from Rosemary Willis, who heard this first fake shot and what make her to stop running. In the Zapruder video, you can clearly see that Rosemary runs on the side of Kennedy's limousine and her eyes seems to focused on John and Jackie, but the reaction for this first fake shot that seems to be that Rosemary somehow lose her eye from the limousine of Kennedy while she is slowing down her run, and her eye contact seems to focusing into the car of Secret Service agents which comes right behind Kennedy's limousine. This reaction of Rosemary tells you that the first shot came somewhere at Zapruder frame 160 and Rosemary was stopped running at frame 193, and you can see this fake shot 1 from the Dictabelt recording also. This frame difference means in time 1,75 seconds, which is, I think, average reaction time if you think you had to stop running based on some loud sound. Fake shot 2. When this second fake shot came, somewhere at the Zapruder frame 190, Rosemary eye contact is still somewhat towards the Texas School Book Depository, but she look about 85 degrees from the roadside embankment on the direction of Daltex building, and which was she's reaction to this fake shot 2 and where the car of Lyndon B. Johnson was at the time. Rosemary had said that the sounds came from across her right shoulder and she located these sounds to Daltex building, which clearly refers to these 2 fake shots, fired from the crowd, car of Lyndon B. Johnson or both, and which was at this line of Rosemary and Daltex building and on the direction Rosemary is looking after she stopped running. Based on the statements of Rosemary, these shots were different kind of by sound, which is of course expected because there were fake shots and the real shots on the air at that day in Dealey Plaza. Rosemary has also said that the sound came from across the street from the Texas School Book Depository, which clearly refers to these real shots fired by Jack Dougherty from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. This, what you can see by the reaction of Rosemary, is also supported from the dicta belt recording, which was recorded by the open microphone of one of the 4 Dallas police motorcycle that drove next to Kennedy limousine, and which you can see these 2 fake shots and 2 real shots fired by Jack Dougherty. With these fake shots, people's eyes and attention are turned away from Kennedy and the Texas School Book Depository, which means a minimum amount of eyewitnesses to the assassination of Kennedy, and this can be seen from the reaction of Rosemary, who dropped down her eye contact from the Kennedy limousine and focus on the intersection of Daltech's building and where these sound sources came from. But despite everything, even though these fake shots were intended to divert attention away from Kennedy's car, Rosemary ended up turning her head back towards Kennedy's limousine right after these fake shots. Rosemary has said that she may have heard up to 6 shots, which in itself may be true. If you look at this dicta belt recording, which I have analyzed and found 6 loud reports and their echoes, and as some eyewitnesses have spoken of the sound of a machine gun because the shots were coming so frequently, but I have focused more on just these 2 false shots, which can be verified by Rosemary's reactions. JFK reaction to fake shots. Unlike Rosemary, Kennedy shows no signs of reacting to these fake shots, to which Rosemary Willis, for example, reacted by stop running. This could be explained by the fact that these fake shots were fired either by Lyndon B. Johnson or by a car coming from behind him, which means that between Kennedy and this source of sound there were 4 police Harley-Davidson motorcycles, a Secret Service follow-up car with a 6-liter V8 engine, and of course the sound source was the President's Lincoln Continental with a 7-liter V8 engine, all of which produced a lot of noise and a sound barrier for these fake shots that, for example, Bill Newman, a member of the Dallas Police Reserve, did not hear.
The shots were almost simultaneously, weren't they?
Yes, sir. They were probably 10 seconds apart.
Do you know who fired the 3rd shot?
I didn't hear a third. I don't recall a 3rd shot. There may have been. My family hit the ground, and I don't recall a 3rd shot. I just couldn't. I'm not certain of that. I do know I heard 2 shots.
Yeah, I heard 3. I know
You
there
heard
were 3.
Well,
yeah, I said to Jerry after the 2nd shot, I said, "My God, those are gunshots." And
What makes the Bill Newman case interesting in another way than the fact that he was a member of the Dallas Police Reserve is that he appears under 2 different names. One is Bill Newman in Dallas media and the other is William J. Newman, in which he used in Warren Commission hearings. This is almost the same kind of behavior than Lee Harvey Oswald posing as Alec Heidel, under which the Mannlicher Carcano was ordered by mail order. In addition, Newman joined the Dallas Police Reserve almost at the same time as Lee Harvey Oswald came back to the United States from the Soviet Union. Isn't that a pretty strange coincidence? But in my criminal investigations there are no coincidences. But this Kennedy assassination was actually put into practice at that time in May-June 1962. Which meant Oswald being called back to the United States and Newman being taken to the Dallas Police Reserve where his part in the Kennedy assassination was practiced, and his getting lost at the Kennedy crime scene could not have been a coincidence but a planned script. But more about Bill Newman, or should I say William J. Newman, in my other video, The Eyewitnesses, which coming someday. Shot 1. The Umbrella Man. As the previous title suggests, This Kennedy assassination has involved a lot of premeditated actions such as these fake shots to divert attention away from Kennedy's limousine and later confuse the people about how many shots were actually fired at Dealey Plaza. The Umbrella Man and the Black Man with him are also part of this Kennedy assassination, where their role has been to draw Kennedy's attention, which has kept Kennedy practically motionless during this first shot, and this can be seen from the Zapruder film and how Kennedy's head position is almost motionless and eye focus to Umbrella Man when he comes out behind the Stemmons sign. This motionless of Kennedy has made it easier for Jack Dougherty to shoot Kennedy in the moving car. The Umbrella Man has been the subject of many conspiracy theories that his real role was to signal the shooter. But as I said before, his real role has been to fix Kennedy's attention, which has kept Kennedy motionless just before the shooting. The fact that Umbrella Man opens his shadow at the same time as Kennedy's shooting means that he is part of the group that intended to assassinate Kennedy during his visit to Dallas. Umbrella Man also proves that these shooting locations, Z220 and Z313, were known to all of these individuals whose actions can be read as their involvement in Kennedy's assassination, and these include photographers Phil Willis, who took this photo just after the second fake shot and just 1 second before the first real shot. Mary Moorman and Jean Hill, who somehow managed to take this picture just 3 frames before Kennedy was shot in the head. Eyewitnesses James Worrell, Howard Brennan, taxi driver William W. Whaley and Arnold Rowland, as well as many others whom I will focus on my second video, Eyewitnesses. In my previous video, Plywood Laying Crew, I have proven that James Jarman, Bonnie Ray Williams, Harold Norman and Charles Givens are lying, but I have not been able to link them to this Kennedy assassination group because they are black people only, on the basis that they are lying because I have suspected that the Dallas police have blackmailed and threatened them. But based on this picture, where the Umbrella Man is sitting next to a black person like a friend's, tells you that there were also a black people involved in this assassination of JFK as well, one Jew, Abraham Zapruder. This black person clearly belongs to this same group as the Umbrella Man, where the role of this dark-skinned person has been to draw Kennedy's attention together with the Umbrella Man, tells you that this group that assassinated Kennedy also included black people like the Umbrella Man's friend, with whom they sat next to each other on the curb like a friends as soon as Kennedy's assassination was successful. What caught my attention was that the Umbrella Man, Louis Stephen Witt, was at almost the same age than the shooter of JFK, Jack Dougherty, where Witt was born in September 1924 and Dougherty was born in August 1923, which means that they were only 13 months apart in age. I believe that Umbrella Man, aka Louis Stephen Witt, have been in the center of this Kennedy assassination, just like the shooter, Jack Dougherty. But what the Umbrella Man, aka Louis Stephen Witt, did at Dealey Plaza, he selfishly couldn't tell the United States House Select Committee in 1975. He only said that he usually just walks somewhere, but in the end he decided that he wanted to find a place where there were fewer people so that he could wave his umbrella at Kennedy. The Umbrella Man worked in 1963 at the Rio Grande Insurance Company, which was located at 251 Northfield Street in the Rio Grande building. It's 750 meters from here to Dealey Plaza, so if Louis Stephen Witt had just wanted to see Kennedy, he could have gone across the block from his workplace, to Main Street, where Kennedy's motorcade was going. In other words, Louis Stephen Witt really has no plausible explanation for being in Dealey Plaza, other than political explanations, just like Lee Harvey Oswald and Howard Brennan had when Kennedy was shot in Dealey Plaza right in front of these eyewitnesses. In my criminal investigations, the fact that you don't have a credible explanation doesn't justify being put on the list of suspected, but the fact that an ordinary citizen puts his own alibis into politics and political statements shows that Louis Stephen Witt, aka the Umbrella Man, is just one part of this group that assassinated Kennedy, where his role was to fix Kennedy's gaze on the umbrella so that he wouldn't move while Jack Dougherty shot Kennedy. When I was investigating this Rio Grande building where Umbrella Man worked, this same building also housed military intelligence. Isn't it a pretty strange coincidence with all these incidents like Louis Stephen Witt standing and waving his umbrella at the exact spot where Kennedy was shot and which he doesn't even have a proper explanation for his actions other than poor explanations. In the Kennedy assassination, the military is too prominent in the background of these individuals, especially Lee Harvey Oswald, who was a United States Marine soldier, whose connection was tried to be covered up by his defection to the Soviet Union because he would later play Kennedy's murderer, and you don't want active United States soldiers for this. Shot 1. JFK reaction. Before Kennedy has pulled up behind the Stemmons sign, he waves his hand in greeting to people on the side of the road. I have included pictures of Kennedy's position, how he has been sitting in the car, in different frames with the time in seconds above it. This series of pictures makes it easier to examine Kennedy's reaction to determine whether the bullet hit him. In frame 224, Kennedy's hand is in an abnormally hooked position, and this is one clue that's suggesting that a bullet has hit him. At the beginning of the video, Kennedy's hand does not go into this position when he normally lowers it after waving it. At frame 225, Kennedy's mouth is open in a circular motion, which is a much clearer reaction and evidence that he is not okay. In frame 226, we can already see a clear reaction to the bullet and how Kennedy is raising both hands towards his neck. If this frame 226 were an image from which reactions can be read, the bullet would have hit frame 221. Which is 0.22 seconds away, which is a very typical reaction time for a human. But the hook position of the hand in frame 224 could also refer to a reaction, in which case the reaction time would be 0.16 seconds. Neck shot location. This bullet that hit Kennedy in the neck hit between frames 221 and 222. I have copied frame 226 where Kennedy is seen and moved it to frame 220. This shows that Kennedy was between the corner of the Dealey Plaza fence and the beginning of the gaps in the fence when the bullet hit him. And the same review with frame 222. Bullet trajectory. I have retrieved a 3D model of the Dealey Plaza area from Google SketchUp, where I have placed the bullet trajectory. This would help you to determine where this bullet hit, after it penetrated Kennedy's throat. The 3D model shows that Kennedy's limousine is well aligned with these two shots, the first shot to the neck and the second shot to the head. From the 3D model, it can be seen that the bullet that pierced Kennedy's throat and almost certainly hit the limousine bench where John Connally was sitting. The Umbrella Man and his dark-skinned friend played a significant role in the Kennedy assassination, where they were involved in ensuring that Kennedy waved to onlookers at the Stemmons sign, which meant he was leaning to the right side of the car, and because of this, the bullet go through Kennedy's throat and into the back of Connally's seat. If Kennedy had stopped waving much earlier, he would have turned to Jackie, and because of this, the first bullet would not hit the back seat of Connally, but would have hit between the Connally's couple and the floor of the Kennedy's limousine. This version where this neck shot one bullet hit the back seat of Connally would be a professional way of acting what this whole assassination of Kennedy would have been if Oswald would not shot J.D. Tippit during his role performance. These shots and the professional way of acting clearly indicate the involvement of the biggest organized criminal leagues of United States, the FBI and the CIA, whose handiwork all these assassination on the soil of United States is, and where these secret operations of killing Fidel Castro was nothing else but a cover plan to hide the real perpetrators of these assassinated people, and of course, to hide the assassination plans in the democratic structures with a pseudonym called Killing Castro. Which there is a book written called 634 Ways to Kill Castro, which must be by all accounts mean all those individuals murdered by the US government in FBI and CIA operations on its own soil, like John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr. and many others. Bullet did not hit Connally.
I heard the shot, and I say shot because I immediately thought it was a shot. I immediately thought it was a rifle shot. I've hunted a great deal in my life. I fired a rifle many times, and I thought it was a rifle shot. Why? I don't know, but I immediately thought of an assassination attempt. It's the only thing that crossed my mind. Fear just swept through me.
Connally is clearly talking about the FBI version here, which is based on 3 bullets fired, one of which, the middle one, hit Connally, and not the single bullet theory, which has become a new truth according to which the same bullet that pierced Kennedy's throat would have pierced Connally. But both of these are equally same type of hoax, because none of these bullets really hit Connally, whose portrayal of an injured and victim is an extremely good alibi to hide Connally's true role as one of the main architects of Kennedy's assassination with Lyndon B. Johnson. At this point in the video, Connally talks about hearing a rifle shot. Connally does not mention anything that would directly indicate the reaction seen in the video, which is clearly due to the bullet that pierced Kennedy's throat and hit the back of Connally's bench, and where it also remained, apparently the bullet-resistant material with which this bench back is lined, because otherwise it would have hit Connally's left hip and actually injured him. Let's listen to the video again from the beginning.
I heard the shot, and I say shot because I immediately thought it was a shot. I immediately thought it was a rifle shot. I've hunted a great deal in my life. I fired a rifle many times, and I thought it was a rifle shot. Why? I don't know, but I immediately thought of an assassination attempt. It's the only thing that crossed my mind. Fear just swept through me, and I immediately thought of him, of course. I was sitting on the jump seat in the 7-passenger car immediately in front of him. And I turned, thinking that the shot had come from back over my right shoulder. And I turned to look in that direction. I think motivated by 2 things. First, to see if I could see where the shot came from, see if I could see anything unusual. But equally or more important to me at that moment in my thought processes was the desire to see him, see if anything had happened, see if he was all right. So I turned, and I obviously saw nothing but a tremendous crowd of people from where we had just come. And I saw nothing unusual, nothing out of the way, except people also had startled looks on their faces. They were turning, they were looking, and I didn't catch him in the corner of my eye. So I was in the process of turning to my left, to look back over my left shoulder, to see if I could see him in the back seat. And that's when I felt the impact of the bullet that hit me.
By now, Connolly has actually spoken himself out from the single bullet theory, as he denies on video that not a single bullet did not hit him at Z221, where he only heard the first shot, and why he turned to look back. And yet, the single bullet theory has been tossed around since that day like a resurrection of Jesus Christ. And this proves how biased this US and Texas judicial system and its police criminal investigations are, because they believe whatever they want to believe and which serves their own views and interest not to get caught in the Kennedy assassination, in connection with which all the relevant evidence and eyewitness statements are ignored, which would actually reveal what happened in Dallas and who actually ordered and carried out the Kennedy assassination, so that this false story about the course of events of the Kennedy assassination could be cut off and offer the truth to their own and other countries' peoples. Connolly has clearly taken the position by this interview that the bullet presented by the FBI at Z265 would have hit him, but this is a 100% lie and can be proven by the dicta belt recording, which contains nothing referring to a shot between these two bullets Z221 and Z313, and if Connolly claims that he was hit by a bullet at this point Z265, then can there be a clearer false statement than this? And this proves, together with the many other lies that have been used to cover up the truth behind Kennedy assassination, that John Connolly is just a one member of this gangbang who killed Kennedy. I have had a hard time to getting inside the empty heads of the FBI and Dallas police about this matter of why this gangbang did not stick into our inspector's single bullet theory, because it was so fucking good and which would have been the best alibi for Connolly, if he only had practiced his role performance of tossing around his chair to better while Kennedy was killed. I, as criminal investigator of Kennedy assassination, would be out of clues when my most significant lines of investigation fake shot of Connolly would have dried up at this point if I couldn't prove Connolly and his poses in the hospital to be a hoax.
There was no great pain associated with the bullet that hit me, notwithstanding it went in my back shoulder and came out my chest right here. I felt as if someone had just hit me in the back, a sharp blow with a doubled-up fist. It was an impact rather than any sort of a searing pain. It more or less knocked me over, at least enough to where I looked down, and of course I was covered with blood, and frankly thought that I had been fatally hit. I said, as I recall, my God, they're going to kill us all. So there was no thought in my mind really about what this was, the assassination attempt. I did not hear the second shot, the one that hit me. I understand there's some question in the minds of the experts about whether or not we could both have been hit with the same bullet, and that was the first bullet. I just don't happen to believe that. I don't believe it, and I will believe it. Because, again, I heard the first shot. I recognized it for what I thought it was. I had time to turn, to try to see what had happened. I was in the process of turning again before I felt the impact of a bullet. Now, obviously, if the bullet that hit me before I could hear it, I was never conscious of the sound of the second bullet at all. I never heard the second bullet. After I said, my God, they're going to kill us all, I, of course, didn't know that they'd actually hit the president, because I had not seen him. He had not said a word.
If we look at Connolly's statements in the light of the existing evidence, which is that no bullet hit Connolly, and all of his statements, reactions, dicta belt recording and Zapruder film support this. Connolly is also lying about these facts, which I have marked in violet and green color, numbered these, and which I have placed on the dicta belt tape timeline based on where these reactions could have occurred based on the known facts of the case from the dicta belt tape and the Zapruder film. If we look at number 3, which is according to his own words, Connolly did not hear the bullet that would have pierced him because, according to his own words, Connolly lost consciousness before the sound of this bullet reached Connolly, yet he talks about how he was covered in blood, which is what happened by all accounts when Jack Dougherty shot Kennedy in the head, and as a result Jackie Kennedy, the motorcycle cops, and the entire car were also covered in blood, which also came down on Connolly. How could Connolly have been aware of any of this blood if he didn't even hear the sound of the second bullet after losing consciousness? Which means that even if Connolly had bled from this wound of imaginary bullet at frame Z265, he would have been unconscious before any of blood appeared in front of his eyes, and there could have been no blood coming from Kennedy's neck either, because the exit wound was hidden underneath the knot of Kennedy's tie. And how Connolly could have said that, "They are going to kill us all," if he had not heard all these 3 shots. What you can see in the dicta belt recording. During this crossfire he would have shouted something like this as the bullets whizzed by, and considering that Connolly has said by his own words that he was unconscious before the sound of bullet number 2 even reached Connolly. Connolly, who is a 100% Texas Nazi and scam politician whose statements have no fucking sense at all and are compared to some lunatic who is not living in this world. Statements that are fictional stories from the mouth of pathological liar syndrome that have no real connection to the Zapruder film, dicta belt recording or the eyewitness of Rosemary Willis. And by now, Connolly has actually spoken himself out from the best alibi he could ever have, the single bullet theory, and what Connolly denies on video by saying that not a single bullet did not hit him at Z221, where he has said that he only heard the first shot, and why he turned to right and looking back. And this proves how biased this US and Texas judicial system and its police criminal investigations are, because they believe whatever they want to believe and which serves their own views and interest not to get caught in the Kennedy assassination, in connection with which all the relevant evidence and eyewitness statements are ignored, which would actually reveal what happened in Dallas and who actually ordered and carried out the Kennedy assassination, so that this false story about the course of events of the Kennedy assassination could be cut off and offer the truth to their own and other countries' peoples. Connolly has clearly taken the line of by this interview that the bullet presented by the FBI at Z265 would have hit him, but this is a 100% lie and can be proven by the dicta belt recording, which contains nothing referring to a shot between these 2 bullets, Z221 and Z313, and if Connolly claims that he was hit by a bullet at this point Z265, then can there be a clearer false statement than this? And this proves, together with the many other lies that have been used to cover up the truth behind Kennedy assassination, that John Connolly is just a one member of this gangbang who killed Kennedy. I have had a hard time to getting inside the empty heads of the FBI and Dallas police about this matter of why this gangbang did not stick into all inspector's single bullet theory and build the story upon this, because it was so fucking good and which would have been the best alibi for Connolly, if he only had practiced his role performance of tossing around his chair and statements after this to be better. I, as criminal investigator of Kennedy assassination, would be out of any clues and facts. When my most significant lines of investigation, fake shot of Connolly would have dried up if Connolly would have stick to this single bullet theory and that they would say that the bullet hit the left side of Connolly's body, and not to right side, and this would have been so fucking good alibi that no one could have cracked it in this day. Connolly really shows no real reaction to being hit by a bullet during this Zapruder video. He only reacts to the bullet that pierced Kennedy's throat and hit the back of Connolly's bench, time period which I have marked as red color. In other words, Connolly lies almost everything he says in this video, which is quite expected behavior from a criminal who was involved in Kennedy's assassination, and why he finally poses at Parkland Hospital pretending to be wounded so that no one would dare to question the lies floating around Kennedy's assassination, and that it was largely an assassination planned by the highest decision makers of this state of Texas, meaning Connolly and Lyndon B. Johnson, who scammed himself into the U.S. Senate with the ballot box 13 scandal and all the way to the presidency by assassinating the sitting president, John F. Kennedy, out of his way, just like Nazi Hitler did in Germany for his own rise to power. For me, as a criminal investigator, The worst thing was to notice that Connolly has a certain natural honesty in her appearance, and why I have had difficulties to see Connolly's true role in this Kennedy assassination and in the early stages of my investigations, because Connolly nature communicates great honesty and sincerity, which however, have proven to be, like all good news and good intentions, in the facades of democracy, which is lies and bullshit stories.
I want to take just a moment to reiterate and to clarify once again the events of that day, November the 22nd, 1963. Let me point out that the information that I'm about to give you is not new. It's precisely the information I recalled and related in a television interview from a hospital bed in Dallas on November the 27th, 1963, just a few days following this assassination. It's precisely the way I related it to the Warren Commission in my testimony before that body. It's also precisely the way it has been recalled by me in interviews since that time. That commission, Senator Richard B. Russell, Senator John Sherman Cooper, Representative Hale Boggs, Representative Gerald Ford, Mr. Allen Dulles, and Mr. John J. McCloy are men of unquestioned integrity, of long and devoted service to this nation. Men whose dedication to the task of seeking truth in these circumstances I would never question, and men whose patriotism has been manifested so many times in so many ways over such a long period of time that I think it's time that we pause and reflect. No, I really don't think so. I don't think it's in doubt, but what if my wrist had been hit before my chest, I would have known it. It's inconceivable to me that I could have suffered my right to see what was happening. Seeing nothing, I was in the process of turning to my left, and I was struck by a second shot. The third shot struck the president, but did not strike me. I want to make it very clear, however, that simply because I disagree with the Warren Commission on this one detail does not mean that I disagree with the substance of their overall findings. I think the Commission did an outstanding job under very difficult circumstances. It is shocking to me, tragedy, journalistic scavengers such as Mark Lane attempt to impugn the motives of these members individually, cast doubts upon the Commission as a whole, and question the credibility of the government itself. Now, obviously, I think there are certain facts about this assassination that may never be known, and no one, no matter how clairvoyant or how wise, could ever say with finality that would satisfy everybody in this world precisely what happened. And I think we ought to.
Reactions of Kennedy and Connolly. If we compare Kennedy and Connolly's reactions, Kennedy's reactions clearly start at frame 224, where his right hand has gone into a hook position, and in frame 225 we can see that his mouth is open roundly, which clearly indicates that he was wounded. Connolly, on the other hand, does not show any reaction because this first bullet did not hit Connolly, but stayed in the back of the Connolly's seat, and what this bullet trajectory of 3D model clearly indicates. The way Connolly reacts to the bullet is also different from Kennedy, who was completely incapacitated within seconds after the bullet hit him. Connolly's reaction, on the other hand, is as if the bullet had hit between Connolly and his wife Nellie, and his reaction to this is more like a frightened, than as he were reacting to a bullet that, according to doctors, broke 3 of Connolly's ribs, a bone in his hand, and also damaged his leg. Based on Connolly's reactions, all of these injuries listed for him at Parkland Hospital are false, and these X-rays shown some already dead person and their body with these injuries, which is depicted only to make it seem like Connolly is one of the victims, when in reality he is one of the main perpetrators of Kennedy's assassination. Shot 2, the headshot. The main hit, aka the headshot, occurred at Zapruder frame position 313 and 5 seconds after the first bullet fired by Jack Dougherty. What makes this headshot interesting and what hasn't been talked about much in public is the actions and statements of Secret Service agent Clint Hill, which unfortunately contradict each other and are just as false description of the events as the statements of all those who were involved in the Kennedy assassination, and which they are trying to cover up with these lies. Clint Hill has said that when he heard shots from behind him on the right, he was turning in that direction when his eyes crossed Kennedy's and he realized that Kennedy had been hit.
I heard a sound from my right rear. I was on the left-hand front of the follow-up car. As I began to turn to my right toward that sound, my eyes crossed the back of the presidential car, and I saw the president grasp at his throat and lurched a little bit to his left. And I realized something had happened. And I got off the car as quickly as I could and ran to the presidential car.
Hill is clearly talking to this first neck shot and why he turned on the right side. Secret Service car and Clint Hill location on the map is shown as cyan color. Realizing what was happened, Clint Hill by his own words start to run to the back of the Kennedy's limousine. If this is true, it means that Agent Hill started to run somewhere at this point if we think about average reaction time, which in the case of Rosemary Willis was 2 seconds, after she stopped running and looked on the right side. These statements of Clint Hill means that he would have run about 90 feet to reach Kennedy's limousine, which is absolutely bullshit stories, and this is the reason why these FBI investigations were kept secret about 60 years, because releasing these bullshit stories of Secret Service agents and Lyndon B. Johnson the same year as Kennedy was shot, everybody would have seen in their own eyes that these people are lying, and it was United States government and Lyndon B. Johnson together with John Connally who was behind this Kennedy assassination. It is clear that Hill did not run such a marathon distance and would certainly have been written about in the newspapers. Altgens took this photo at Zapruder frame 255, where Hill is still in the Secret Service agent car, completely motionless and calm, 1.85 seconds after the first bullet hit Kennedy, which is the time during Rosemary reacted to these fake shots, stopped running and looked to her right where these fake shots were coming from, and in this same time, where this little girl was able to react to the fake shots, there is absolutely no reaction whatsoever seen from the face of this Secret Service agent, who has by now heard the first real shot and seen Kennedy's reactions in front of his own eyes. How it is possibly that these same fake shots or Jack Dougherty's first shot cause no reaction but cold-blooded calmness to this Secret Service agent, when the other side is the reactions of a 10-year-old girl to these shots? Quite amazing incapacity if you are asking it for me. And since Altgen's photo proves that the first bullet fired by Jack Dougherty caused no reaction in Clint Hill, Mary Muchmore's video proves that Agent Hill only reacted to this second shot, which occurred at Zapruder frame 313. And as you can see from the Muchmore video, Clint Hill react immediately after the second shot of Jack Dougherty, and when there is no fatal bullets on the air that could cause instant death for this scam agent that, based on his own words, would take a bullet for Kennedy. So against all lies this scam agent of Lyndon B. Johnson has poured out from his mouth, he ran only this distance of 34 feet, right after the last shot of Jack Dougherty, and which distance to be ran took from this scam agent of Lyndon B. Johnson and the Secret Service less than 4 frames, which is less than 0.06 seconds. That's what I am talking fast reaction. Third shot, Dealey Plaza. After the last bullet fired by Jack Dougherty at the Texas School Book Depository, a third distinct sound from the gunshot can be seen on the dicta belt recording, which is the loudest of all the sounds, suggesting that it was fired very close to the Kennedy limousine and motorcycle from which this dicta belt recording was recorded. Clint Hill's statements have been somewhat ambiguous on this matter, which is understandable from someone who was involved in the Kennedy assassination. Clint Hill has said that he only heard 2 shots, the 2 that hit Kennedy and where the last one sounded like a revolver. But from where this third shot was fired, we need to find out the sound pressure levels for the Carcano bullet. Sound levels. Although James E. Barger's test results are almost complete crap, I will use his results for the Mannlicher Carcano, but I will do so with extreme caution, i.e. I will compare the results with independent results from the table where there is sound pressure levels of different guns and its Steyr Daimler Mannlicher, which I use to compare the results and which should be more or less in line. Barger has measured the sound pressure level of the Carcano bullet to be 137 decibels at 30 feet. If you look at this graph that Barger has made, the shock wave and muzzle blast that are reported are measured 20 feet apart each other. I can't really say if this is just a deliberate attempt to confuse the readers and why, but it does that for sure, and this graph gives the wrong impression. If we calculate where this muzzle blast of Barger should be, it goes out of this graph and on the left side of shock wave created from the bullet. I have not much of understanding of acoustics, but how can you believe in these test results of Barger which are fake results? But because even Barger cannot do these tests by distort them 100%, because then everybody would see this scam, I'm going to use his measurement result of the Mannlicher Carcano sound pressure level at 30 feet because I'm convinced that this is the correct result, even in Barger's tests. Sound source. Determining the sound pressure level for the third shot, we need to make a rough estimate of what caused it, and I have come to the conclusion that it is most likely a very similar weapon to the one Lee Harvey Oswald carried, 38 caliber short barrel Smith & Wesson. Dallas police has used Colt and Smith & Wesson pistols, and this 38 caliber detective special has been very popular with police detectives due to its small size, which is based on the short barrel and what kind of pistol Oswald was also carrying. If you want, there is one good YouTube video on this gun. Which facts behind this I don't know, but it was quite good, and based on how much lies there is hoovering over JFK assassination, this could be very real. Okay, we now have the sound pressure levels calculated at these points where Kennedy was shot. After a little calculation, the sound pressure level of the third shot is 123.7 decibels. If you're wondering where this -2 decibels comes from, I have estimated how much the sound of the gun has been silenced because Malcolm Summers clearly could not have fired this revolver so that it could have been seen, and why it has to be fired underneath his jacket or whatever he was wearing that day. And this is a big question mark about how much the sound pressure of Summers' gun has been obstructed from reaching the microphone on the Dallas police motorcycle, which could have been in front of Altgens, the Kennedy couple, and part of the body of a Lincoln Continental, unlike in Jack Dougherty's case, where the Mannlicher Carcano was pointed directly at the vehicle procession and from a high building, which would have had a completely unobstructed path for the sound to reach the microphone, which could only have been in front of the motorcycle driver, if the microphone was in the middle of the motorcycle. And this is why I cannot say exactly which motorcycle this dicta belt recording was recorded from.